first went in, they didn't even call us by our names. We just had numbers. FO 346, loudspeaker in the yard. FO 346 on your job. FO 346. Well, the day I got out, I didn't have street clothes. I had my prison clothes. I felt very uncomfortable. So we're looking to get him pants and mainly short sleeve shirts, right? Lots of guys who are coming out of prison come out to nothing and no one. They hear about me on the inside and they write us and we come and get them. My name is Freddie Nole. We coming to pick up a Mr. Edward Goldsby. Hey man, look, I'm glad we can help, man. And,
so glad for that.
You want to change clothes?
Yeah, I'll change clothes.
How you feel, man?
I
Feels
feel
good,
free.
right?
Yeah, I feel free.
Nice to meet you.
How you doing, man?
This is my favorite part when I got out.
Yeah.
The breakfast, my first real meal, you know? I was in the drug program. They didn't tell me I could go to a sober living home. And these guys here had me in one in 2 hours. Changed my whole life. If they didn't intervene, I know what would have happened. I would have went in, I would have got with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
We got your phone.
New phone activation, separate account. No.
Let me see something. New phone.
Star pound, 06 pound.
Next time, just go to T-Mobile or Metro and get a phone.
If you ask for our help and you decide what your life is going to be from that point on, that's it for us.
Man, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah. Look, man, any day of getting out of prison is
a beautiful day.
Hey, this is Freddie Nole. We're meeting at the door.
Good afternoon and welcome to My Harlem Portraits, the show that aims at shedding the light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black excellence. Today, it's a special edition of My Harlem Portraits. It's a TRIBECA Festival 2026 special edition. And we are beginning with the second life of Freddie Nole, which is having its New York premiere at this year's TRIBECA Festival. It is a VERITE documentary, short, directed and produced by veteran journalist, film and TV director Dana Nachman, and co-produced by Chelsea Matter. And we are going to talk about that with the very one who is the subject of the documentary, Mr. Freddie Nole himself. Welcome to My Harlem Portraits.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for all you're doing, Freddie, because you are a community advocate, mentor, and you are a co-founder of the Reentry Minister Meeting at the Door. You are also a member of the ICAN Network, Incarcerated Children's Advocacy Network. Tell us, what are these two organizations doing?
Yeah. Well, Meeting at the Door helps with bringing individuals that are being released from incarceration. We give them the opportunity to transition by meeting them literally at the door when they come out. We provide transportation to where they want to go. They pre-tell us where their destination is from prison. And a lot of that has to do to take away the stigma of them having to travel on public transportation in prison garment and stuff. So we're trying to break down a lot of stereotypical things that people come out of prison having to experience. And that is, people just looking at them, then basically feeling uncomfortable, being recognized as just, being released from incarceration. So, we give them a ride. We provide them with a set of clothing as soon as we possibly can. That helps take away the stigma also. And we take them for a meal. And that gives us the opportunity to put them in an environment where they feel comfortable. I guess like most people say, if you have a meal, you can have a good conversation. Yeah. So that's what we do. And then we take, like I said, we take them shopping most of the time after the meal is done, and they can pick out things that they want. The clothes that we provide them when we originally meet them, we usually get them in advance. And so we ask them for their sizes and things like that, and then we'll go shopping for them. But then when we bring them out, we'll let them go shopping for themselves. And we provide all the resources that we have to help them navigate being back into their community. So, like we give them job referrals, we give them referrals to other programs. Unfortunately, Meeting at the Door don't have a lot of like training programs or school opportunities or job opportunities, but we network with a lot of resources that can provide that, and we pass that on. As for ICAN, I just recently got involved with ICAN. I was a juvenile lifer, and ICAN came as a result of that. Brian Stevenson, through the fair sentencing of youth. A lot of programs were developed out of the Miller, Alabama decision and youthful offenders being released back into society. So what ICAN does is it just meets people where they're at in terms of their needs. They come together on a monthly basis and talk about what it is to navigate this new system of environment that we've come out to, and then they assist with. I got a project that two mentors that are assisting me in developing some things with Meeting at the Door. But ICAN is definitely a reinforcement support network that it's really indescribable in terms of the people that come alongside you and are there to help you in whatever you're trying to achieve. So yeah, they're two very important programs for those who are coming through and out of the incarcerated experience.
And when you say you were a youth lifer, for those who don't understand what it means, I wouldn't have understood it if I had not seen the documentary before.
Okay.
So tell us what it means. What happened to you?
Okay. A juvenile lifer is an individual who was at least 17 years and under that was convicted of mostly a homicide robbery, what they call accomplice or liability homicides, and they receive life sentences without the opportunity of parole. And Brian Stevenson challenged that. Well, if you know anything about Brian Stevenson, he challenged a lot of things. But the end result of him challenging throwing away the life of young kids through life without parole, without considering their life potential and their brain development was just cruel and unusual. And the Supreme Court agreed with him in 2012. So as a result of that, and then Montgomery versus Louisiana, they made that retroactive. So anybody that was sentenced prior to 2012 had the opportunity now to have their sentences recalculated. And I had mine recalculated to 48 years to life, but I wound up doing an additional 9 months. So I didn't get out until I had a little over 49 years in, and I was paroled.
And what is crazy about what happened to you is that the person that you were in prison for murder, in fact, you didn't murder him. He died running. He had a heart attack.
Yeah, he had an aneurysm chasing us out. Look, I never minimized what I did and my contribution to that. I mean, being older, being more mature, I understand that lawless acts have, consequences. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is, once you do something like that, you don't have no control of what may happen. But I think the system because it marginalized my situation, my poverty, my lack of education, the inability of my family to come up with a proper with money for a proper defense. I think if I was anybody else other than the person that I was, I may not have did a life sentence. The two co-defendants that I had at the time, they did not do life. They were released after 11 months and 18 months. And like I said, I just spent that 49, little over 49 years in. But I consider myself a better person as a result of it. I know I went in very uneducated, not having any idea of like what my life could be, would be. That I never knew I would be a contributor to anything because I just didn't have that model growing up in society. But prison, it didn't rehabilitate me per se, but it put me in an environment where I could rehabilitate myself, and I did.
You did. You definitely did.
Thank you.
Because now you're helping people who have
Yeah.
been in a situation like yours or much lighter than yours, just incarcerated people.
Yes, ma'am.
And this documentary is just about one of the many days in your life when you and your wife drive to meet Edward Goldsby,
Mm-hmm.
a man walking out of prison. And it is the same prison you spent time in.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what is really crazy. Tell us about him and what does your mission mean for this man?
Yeah.
Because you give them clothes, you give a telephone, you find them a place to stay, you help them finding work, you put them in touch with other people who have done the same thing. It's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's been interesting. Mr. Golby is kind of like an individual who's, for lack of a better word, he's a little more independent than some of the people that we've helped. Reaching out to him and trying to find out how he's doing. The best thing we can say is that he's not reincarcerated, but he's finding his way. There are people that I'm in contact with that he talks to that just says that he's doing good. And I think that's about all we can really expect of individuals. Like if they get the taste that, even if they don't take advantage of it, but we put in place that they have a knowledge that people are there for them, that they're not alone in what they're doing, and whether they choose, to utilize that or not, if they're still out, then we figure we've done our job. We've done the thing that we wanted to achieve, and that is letting people know that somebody care. It doesn't really cost them anything, because a lot of times people feel, oh, you ain't going to do nothing for me unless, I got something to give you or there's a trade-off. But I think in many of the circumstances, and especially in the circumstances of Mr. Goldsby, the fact that he understands that we were there for him and we're still there for him, and whenever he feels as though he needs to utilize our services, not only materially, but the fact that he can get on the phone and talk to somebody that understands his situation and has been where he's at.
And one of the few things that really struck me when I watched the movie, well, first of all, that you said that people come out of prison with their prison clothes. I had no idea. Okay, that is really. Then the first thing he said when he was in the car and you asked him how you feel, and he said, I feel free.
Yeah.
When he said it was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then when he talked to your friend Steve Chile, we're going to talk about Steve, and that Steve is the first man you ever picked up.
Yeah.
Who's going to help him take his first step into freedom. Ed says to him, there is no pride to stay free. I need to work and I need to get myself a driver's license.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really enthusiastic. We find out about this, that you spent 50 years in prison, only towards the end of the movie. And also what we find out is that 66% of formerly incarcerated people at national level, they return to prison within 3 years.
Yeah, statistics kind of like prove that out, and I think one of the things that contributes to that is that prison really doesn't prepare anybody for their return to society, and in addition to that, society isn't prepared for people coming out of incarceration. Um, a lot of guys that come out go back to their communities and they just blend in, but they don't really have support systems unless they have still have family members or are fortunate enough to maybe build up a network of people while they're inside. They come out to nothing. They don't know how to navigate the community, particularly if they spent 5, 10, 15, 20 years, because there's no real technology education inside prisons.
Yes.
The lack now of community involvement is dissipated over the years, so they don't have that current ability to have knowledge of like what's really taking place. Their ideas of the economy is definitely blurred, by the conditions that prison sets in place for like eating habits and having personal items and things like that. So it's a big educational shock to most people coming out, and God knows we don't even want to begin with the trauma that some of these guys have and have suppressed over the years, because the system isn't built to really identify those traumas and help them deal with it. So like the reentry process must be greater than what it is in order to take away those statistics that you've talked about. But and then getting the 3 years success is not an easy process. I mean, I say it all the time when I get a chance to talk to people. If I don't establish meeting at the door, even though I don't get paid for it, I would be without a job for the last 6 years, knocking on doors, trying to get a job and what have you. But meeting at the door, like I said, I don't get paid for it, but it provides me a way of still being involved in my community and helping guys come out and what have you. And by the grace of God, like me and my wife are surviving off of our social securities. But not everybody even has that opportunity. They come out and there's no home. Most of the people that says that they provide housing, there's so many hoops that you got to go through in order to get it, that guys just decide, man, I'm going back to doing the thing that I know I can do best, surviving by the streets. And we know what that is. They're coming back, ultimately coming back to prison. So those 3 years are crucial, for the individual who, they're crucial in the extent that if you have that fortitude to keep going, regardless of like what you might bump into, yeah, you're probably going to survive. But if you don't have those tools and those skills and that determination, no, you're probably going to come back to prison. And then all the other things that you got to deal with parole agents being nasty, special conditions of parole. If you happen to be a sex offender, that's another large contingency of people that return to prison. So yeah, if you can stay out 3 years and then make it, yeah, that's a success story.
Yeah. And in your case, the success story is much, much bigger than that, because of the people you helped, none of them has got back into prison.
Well, we had a few that's been back for technical parole violations, but the majority, like I said, we probably have about 80% success rate for all the people that we've bought out. Like I said, it's sometimes it's hard to look back and see, but rarely have we heard of anybody committing a new crime. Parole violation, that's always something that's going to be present in guys' life that's on parole, because once again, they have no idea of what the agents' motives are when they're dealing with their clients.
Yeah, because, for example, Ed was saying that he needed to talk to his parole agent because he wanted to go and spend Mother's Day with his mother.
Yeah.
So had he not done that, he would have violated parole.
Yeah. Yeah.
To
If
go
he
and
would
see
have
his
went and saw his mother, even if he hadn't reported to his agent that he was out within a certain period of time, that would have been a technical violation. Now, whether or not his agent would have took him back, I mean, he could have, but he might have said, well, look, okay, this is a warning. Don't do it again. We're going to let you ride, because they have that authority.
Yeah.
But he did the right thing. He talked to his agent and he got permission and he was able to see her.
That is fantastic. Why do you think, well, you has answered, I was going to ask you, why do you think your program is so successful? But you just answered this.
Yeah.
Successful because you care.
Yeah. Well, look, I think I said this to a brother yesterday. I went up to the prison. They had what they call a network for success. And what they do is they bring in a lot of community resources from the community to talk about the programs that are available and resources available to guys when they come out. And one of the individuals that I was incarcerated with came up to me and he said, you look good, man. I said, hey, man, thank you. He said, thank you for what you're doing. And I said, no problem. But here's the thing for me. That's my community.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, some people, it might seem unfortunate to some people that I would call a prison my community, but I spent 49 years in prison. Most of the people I grew up with, most of the people that I've lost that I was close to was in that community.
Yeah.
I know more about that community than I know about the community I live in right now. I'm more able to meet the needs and hear the needs and work towards the needs of those that are incarcerated than I could out here in this community. So when I go before college students and talk about the criminal justice system, when I go before legislators and talk about the needs, for the criminal justice system, I'm talking about an experience that I've lived. And I'm talking about an experience that most of the people I know are still living. So it's an easy choice for me, to give back to something that I know. I know the personal needs, and I know what it actually did, for my life while I was there.
And this is exactly how I wanted to end this conversation, with this question. What is the request and the message that you want to send lawmakers who could change and improve the system?
This might seem cliche, but how about infusing a little more humanity into our criminal justice system? Okay, you take people off the streets, you understand, because they've done something against the law, but you don't teach them how to abide by the law. You don't teach them that there's other ways to deal with situations. Growing up thinking that violence is the solve, is the only way that you can solve things. We know as we grow up that that's not true. One guy told me one time in prison, like, your humanitarian tool belt has to have more than just a hammer in it. It needs so many other tools in order for you to survive, and they need to teach them like what those tools are. Hire more professionals if you must, that deals with, like I said, the trauma. Give restorative justice, where people look at what part they played in their own given situation of incarceration, and I know it sounds like a lot, but I came up in a system where you had the opportunity to do very human things. Like, we wore our own clothes in the early 70s. We had family day visits. We had a cadre of social program. Education is probably one of the biggest things that allows a guy to actually see his growth and development and what contribution he can make. And for me, that was one of the biggest achievements of mine, developing and realizing I could have a voice in things that actually affected my life. So, and I think if some of these things can be infused into the criminal justice system, where people understand, okay, I got you here for punishment, but I'm also here to teach you a better way.
Yeah.
If that could happen, I think we would have a better individual coming out of prison, a much more prepared individual coming out of prison, and our success and recidivism rate would be much, much lower.
Yeah. Thank you. That is a wonderful message to end this conversation. And I want to thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And let's tell our viewers when your film is showing at TRIBECA. It's showing on Friday, June 5th at Spring Studio, on Thursday, June 11th, always at Spring Studios, and Saturday, June 13th at the AMC on 19th Street in New York. And you can get tickets at https TRIBECA Film Festival, or just go to the website of the TRIBECA Film Festival and look for your title, The Second Life of Fred Nolan, and get tickets there. It is worth watching. This movie is fantastic.
Thank you, Myra. Appreciate it. God bless you
So much. God bless you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you to our viewers. See you next Saturday, 12:30 p.m. on Spectrum channel 1993, MNN HD. And to see all the past episodes, go to my YouTube channel, My Harlem Portraits. Thank you again, Freddie.
Thank you.
And thank your wife.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.